Something big is brewing down in Kerala. After 10 years with one coalition in power, the state is heading towards what might be its most important election in a generation. So, will the ruling front make history with a third term, or is a major political shift about to happen? Today, we're going to break down this high-stakes battle for Kerala's future.
Here's how we're going to tackle it. First, we'll look at why this election is such a historic crossroads. Then, we'll decode the strategies and battle plans of all the key players. After that, we're going to listen to what the voters are actually saying on the ground. We'll also dive into some wild cards that could change everything. And finally, we'll look at the numbers and the path to that magic number of 71 seats.
So, let's get right into it. This isn't just another election, It's really a referendum on the last decade of governance in Kerala. The ruling LDF is trying to do something incredible, win a third straight term, which almost never happens here. And, on the other side, you've got the UDF fighting tooth and nail for a comeback after being out of power for 10 long years. For decades, Kerala's politics had this predictable rhythm. It was like a revolving door. Power would swing back and forth between the two main fronts every 5 years. But in 2021, the LDF completely broke that pattern. Now, they're trying to do it again, aiming for a third term that would absolutely rewrite the political rulebook in the state.
But at the end of the day, it all boils down into one simple number: 71. Kerala has a 140-seat assembly, so 71 is what you need for a majority. And with so many seats expected to be incredibly close, the entire future of the government could literally be decided by just a handful of votes.
Okay, so how are they planning to get to that magic number? What's the game plan? Let's take a closer look and decode the battle plans for the three major fronts. Each one has a totally different strategy for winning over voters.
And right away, you can see one of the biggest battlegrounds is welfare. I mean, look at this. It's basically a bidding war. All three fronts are promising a 3,000 rupee monthly pension. That means it's not a unique promise for anyone anymore, it's just the starting point. So they have to get creative elsewhere, like the UDF coming out with this massive 25 lakh health insurance plan. That's a clear shot at outdoing the LDF's promise of universal coverage.
So beyond the promises, what's the core story each side is telling? Well, they couldn't be more different. On one hand, the LDF is saying, look at our track record. They're pointing to how they handled big crises like floods and the pandemic, all under what they call the Pinarayi factor. But on the other hand, the UDF is tapping into this feeling of governance fatigue, arguing that 10 years is too long and it's led to economic problems and it's just time for a change.
But hold on, this isn't just a two-horse race anymore. The NDA is playing a very smart game here, really trying to be a major disruptor. They're going after voters who are fed up with both sides, making alliances in key areas, and trying to pull votes from important communities like the Aishvas and Nayars. Their ultimate goal? To grab enough seats to become the kingmaker.
Okay, we've heard from the parties. But what about the people who actually decide this thing? What are the issues that are really on the minds of the voters in Kerala? Let's switch gears and listen to the voice of the voter.
And when you ask people what they care about most, the answer is crystal clear. It's all about the economy. Finding a job and the rising cost of living, inflation, are the two biggest issues by a long shot. These are the real kitchen table issues that are going to move the needle.
And this isn't just about numbers on a chart. It's about real people with real struggles. Just listen to this from a voter in Kollam. I'm a cancer patient. When I went to RCC Hospital for medicine, there was none. They said to buy it with my own money. My eyes well up at this kind of governance. I mean, that's the kind of raw, powerful emotion that people are taking with them into the voting booth. That kind of personal frustration, well, it shows up in the wider polling too. A huge chunk of voters, almost half, are just not happy with the current government's performance. And that, right there, is the single biggest mountain the LDF has to climb to win this election. But elections are never just about polls and promises. There are always these unpredictable factors. These are wild cards that can just throw even the best laid plans into chaos. Let's look at what some of those are for this election. First up, I want you to just look at this number. 2 million. What could that possibly be? It's not votes. It's not seats. What is it?
It's the number of people who have basically vanished from the voter rolls. It's being called the mystery of the missing voters. A huge data cleanup removed 2 million names, and the theory is that a lot of them are young people who have moved abroad for jobs. This could be a huge deal, because that youth vote often leans anti-incumbency, and now a chunk of it is just gone.
And if that wasn't enough, you've got these other major forces at play. First, a blistering heat wave. We're talking up to 38 degrees Celsius, which could seriously keep people home on polling day. And then there's the ongoing crisis in West Asia.
It's making it really hard and expensive for expats to fly home to vote, and those expats are a huge vote bank for the UDF, especially in the Malabar region. So, with all these wildcards and shifting dynamics, where does that leave us? What are the polls actually saying about the path to 71 seats? Let's get into the final numbers.
Now, if we rewind to the middle of 2025, it looked like a runaway train for the UDF. They had this huge 7-point lead. It seemed like a classic anti-incumbency story was taking shape, and they were on a clear path to victory.
But then things got a lot more interesting. The LDF, with its incredible ground game, really started to close that gap. For a minute there, one poll even showed them inching ahead. It looked like they might pull off the impossible. But now, in the final stretch, it seems the momentum has shifted right back to the UDF, who now look like they have the edge again.
And really, this whole thing is going to come down to what everyone is calling the tough fight seats. These are the constituencies where the margin is paper thin. We're talking a few hundred votes either way could decide not just the seat, but who forms the next government. It's that close. So when you put all the final polls together and aggregate the data, a pretty clear picture starts to form. The UDF looks set to cross that magic number of 71, probably landing somewhere between 74 and 82 seats. The LDF is expected to put up a really strong fight, but the numbers suggest they'll just fall short. And the NDA looks like it might pick up a seat or two as well.
What this all really suggests is that after that one-off election in 2021, Kerala is probably snapping back to its old political rhythm. That revolving door is starting to turn again, pushed by a decade of government's fatigue and a strong desire for change.
But of course, polls aren't prophecies. Nothing is decided until the very last vote is counted. So the big question remains. With so many young voters missing and the expat vote up in the air, can the UDF actually convert this lead into a solid majority? Or does the LDF's legendary ground game have one last surprise up its sleeve? Well, the voters of Kerala will give us the answer very soon.